Welcome inside the RX Muscle Studios here in New York for another episode of Iron Debate, brought to you by Species Nutrition. Visit speciesnutrition.com. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. Glad you can join us on this 21st day of July in the year 2016. We are 55 days away from the Olympia. We are back here on Iron Debate after about a couple of months. You all asked for it, and here we are. We're going to bring an abbreviated version of the episode. We're going to bring two Olympia-style debates to this show as we introduce now our competitors for this afternoon's episode. First, joining us from Fairfax, Virginia, here on the show for the first time, Jerry Ward. Jerry, how you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And, of course, you can catch Jerry on his YouTube channel, Bios3 Training. As we go to Guadalajara, Mexico, introduce the man they call Boss Number 2. And, of course, we're talking about John Romano. John, how you doing today?
Good. How you guys doing?
We are phenomenal as we go back here in studio and welcome in the founder of RxMuscle.com, Dave Palumbo. Dave, after a 2-month hiatus, back here on Iron Debate.
Yeah, and I just had a great meal, thanks to Kathy from Kathy's Health Cafe. She brought in all this food. We did a great video. So I'm always in a good mood after I ate. Usually I'm grumpy on the show because I'm starving, but I'm not hungry today, so I'm ready to do battle with these other two guys. Jerry's got, I'm a little jealous of Jerry because he's got more subscribers on his YouTube channel than we do on RX Muscle. Don't know how, but he does.
How'd you do that?
Was that?
How did you do that?
You know what? People ask me all the time, how did I grow my social media? I have no fucking clue whatsoever. Zero clue. I just started putting videos out and just literally just shooting my mouth off and people responded. So, I don't really do anything special. I don't do anything important. I just kind of do my day-to-day thing. And I don't even really know that it's making an impact till I get to like the Olympia, the Arnold or something like that. And people start, coming up to you and lining up to see you and stuff. And I had a guy fly from Kuwait just to meet me. And I'm like, how is this happening? Like, it makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Well, of course, we are 55 days away from the Olympia, and our first topic is going to be about one of the more scintillating topics as we approach Olympia 2016. Well, it's been about a couple of months now, and since the big announcement that Kevin Levrone made standing on a stage in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, that he is in fact going to be competing at the 2016 Olympia. Well, ever since then, we have had a wide array of opinions, ranging from this is a mistake, he's too old, ranging from that to this is exciting, this is Kevin Levrone, he's an all-time legend, and this is the man that can come back after all these years and put together an exciting performance at the 2016 Olympia. But here is a question, and we want to be a little bold about this, so Jerry Ward, we're going to start with you first on this. Can Kevin Levrone, after his hiatus, come back and win the 2016 Olympia?
Well, I think that if anybody can come back after a layoff like that, it would be Kevin. Now, I mean, obviously, we got to see them standing side by side to see what they even pair up like him and Phil. I would love to see the final call out be him and Phil. Do I think he's too old? Which I keep hearing people say this. Do you think he's too old? Anybody who really knows Kevin, has been around him, knows that he doesn't have like a wrinkle on his face, a gray hair on his head, nothing. I mean, he just looks like he's like 25 years old. And now that he had all these tests and scans and stuff done so that he's healthy, I mean, he literally has the body and physique of like a 30-year-old. So he's right in the mix, in my opinion, right there.
John, what do you say as far as Kevin Levrone? And again, there has been all sorts of speculation as far as how high he can place. Let's put you on the spot. Can he win the Sandow?
Well, this is an amazing opportunity that we have here because it's like Levrone is gracing us all with a wonderful time machine. Because we always say, oh, I wonder what, he'd look like compared to the guys today. I wonder what the guys from the 90s, how they would do today. Flex, Cormier, Gillette, all of those guys. And the internet is rife with, comparison photos, Phil Heath against, Flex Wheeler or whoever, and now we actually have the opportunity to see this in real life. We don't have to see it with, comparison photos or, Photoshop or whatever. We're going to actually see a 90s champion come up on stage and compete with the present pros. And it's what we've all been wanting to see because the conjecture has been from day one that the 90s bodybuilders were the best ever and, they could smoke the whole lineup today. So now we're going to get to see it. Personally, I think Levrone is one of those guys, and Dave, we've even tested this on RX Muscle, that he's a hyper responder. He's just one of those guys. He's a freak. He's one of those guys that just responds incredibly to diet, nutrition, drugs, training. It's just unbelievable. He has spent 13 years. And I think with his small body size, the rest he's gotten, he's going to get, now that he's huge, he doesn't have any skin elasticity issues because he spent so many years small. So now his skin is tight. His physique is as good, if not better, as it was in the 90s. I've seen pictures. I don't see any reason why this guy is not going to step into the top 3 and mix things up and make the battle very interesting.
Back to you real quick. You said that if anybody could do it, it is Kevin Levrone. And when you look at the last few years, there's been all sorts of talk about Phil Heath. And yeah, while he's on this streak, may not have been at his very best over the last couple of years. Sean Roden has been, many argued he could have been the Mr. Olympia in 2014. Last year in the finals, didn't bring his absolute best. So the idea is that there may be an opening here. Now, while you say that if anyone could do it, it is Kevin Levrone. But when you look at the top of the pile right now, do you see any vulnerabilities there that Kevin Levrone can come in and exploit?
Well, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Like, this is not something that Kevin decided to do like last week. Like, this goes back to 2009. I don't know if you guys actually know this story or not, but Kevin actually trained me for the Pittsburgh. He hadn't been near a gym in like 7 years or something like that. And a couple days after the Pittsburgh, he was back there with like Ronnie Coleman and all these guys, and they were all talking. He was looking, he was like, I could probably beat a lot of these guys nowadays because all the top Olympians go to the Pittsburgh to pose. And it started to kind of get in his head then. That was like in 2009. His first transformation, that guy put on 40 pounds of muscle in about a month and a half, eating like a banana a day or a chicken breast a day. It wasn't hardly eating. And since that time, like, he's been watching these guys. Don't think he hasn't been studying these guys this whole time since 2009 to see where their weaknesses are, where their strengths are, where he could possibly take them. This whole thing has been planned for a long time, and it's not just thrown together. So I know that there's definitely going to be people that, knowing that Kevin's coming in, some people are going to sleep on that and not be at 100% because they don't believe he's going to be that good. I believe he could beat them. There's going to be people that overdo things because they know that he's going to be good. So they maybe over-diet a little bit, so that makes him a little off. And that way, he's going to beat those guys. So there's going to be, until you get there that day of the show, you don't know how someone's going to look or where they're going to fare. But I can tell you one thing, Kevin's got a plan, and he's going to be 100% his best that he can put together on that day. And, we can't say the same for all the other athletes. We've seen everybody very off some days. Phil Heath was off last year at the prejudging, and, usually he's a little better the second day. He'll tighten up and harden up and fill out for the second day. So, if Kevin comes in and prejudging 100% and Phil comes off a little bit, all of a sudden now we have, some very interesting stuff going on.
John, let's get a quick thought from you on that exact point. Can Kevin Levrone come in and extract some of these vulnerabilities right now at the top of the perceived Olympia pile?
Well, in investment circles, there's a saying that says, the trend is your friend. So when you see a trend developing, chances are the trend is going to continue. The trend that has been developing with Phil Heath is that he's gotten worse every year for at least the last 4 years. So that is a developing trend, whether his body's tired, whether he just can't put it together anymore, whatever. He has not come back into 2014 shape, certainly that I've seen in the last few outings. So one vulnerability is Phil getting worse. The other vulnerability is Levrone is like a wild card. Some of the guys competing now, in the Olympia were really young when Kevin was, rocking the stage in the 90s. And I don't think they really know what to expect. Beyond his physique, there's a whole manner of competing, of stage presence, and of, it's like in boxing, you call it ring wise. That he knows how to manipulate the stage, manipulate, the call outs. When he's in a call out, I've seen him with Flex do it. They did it here in a demonstration in Mexico, how they get in front of people and stick their arm out. And, there's a whole psych out element to this whole thing that these modern guys don't really know. And this was masterful in the 90s because the field was so deep. These guys had to have every single conceivable benefit at their disposal, every tool that they could get their hands on. And I don't think these guys today are ready for how Levrone is going to psychologically dominate the stage and just foul up people psychologically. So that's a whole other factor no one's thinking of.
Let's get a final word. Dave Palumbo, can Kevin Levrone come in after his long hiatus and win the 2016 Olympia?
I'm a huge Kevin Levrone supporter. I've been saying from the beginning, I've never seen anyone respond the way his body does. And I think that at day of the Olympia, he's going to be very impressive. He's going to be maybe, up there with some of the best Levrones we've seen. Whether that will be enough to win the Olympia is a very, very bold statement. Talking about placing top 6 is one thing. Winning the Olympia, we're talking about winning the Olympia, beating the current 5-time reigning champion, Phil Heath, who hasn't been beaten for the last couple of years. And we've seen some good Dennis Wolfs up there. We've seen some great Sean Rodens. We saw a great Dexter Jackson last year, who, by the way, Dexter Jackson beat Levrone the last 2 times that Levrone competed against him in his last 2 pro shows. So winning the Olympia is a bold statement. I don't know if I'm willing to go online. If I was a betting man, I would not bet on Levrone, although spiritually I'm betting on Kevin Levrone. I want to see Kevin Levrone win the Olympia. It would be one of the greatest bodybuilding stories in the history of our sport, and people will talk about it for 20 to 30 years to come, about the year that Levrone at 52 years old made a comeback after 13 years of not being up there and won the Olympia. I don't think he can win the Olympia. I don't think he's going to win. I think he's going to make a very, very impressive outing. I think Johnny just put up, is that Kevin Levrone right now live? That's funny. We're live. Levrone's live. Look, you can see the arms are back, the shoulders are back, the pecs are back. His back is looking very impressive. We haven't seen the wheels yet. I don't know if he's doing that purposely because he wants people to be guessing, or if they're a little behind. It's going to be hard for him to win the Olympia, but he will definitely be in the running. I will go on record and say that.
Let's go to our next topic, and that is Big Ramy. Big Ramy seems to be the wild card every time he steps on stage. Well, this year, with no Kai Green and presumably, no Dennis Wolf, there seems to be an opportunity now for a Big Ramy to finally make that splash that we've been waiting on for so long now. So, John Romano, we're going to start with you. Can Big Ramy come in and clinch a top 3 position?
Sid, I'm going to take that question because I think we lost these guys for a second. Big Ramy is another anomaly, okay? The reason why Big Ramy has the ability to come in and dominate that Olympia and possibly even win it with the right guidance, and we know he's got some great guidance this year under the eye of Chris Aceto, is that he's bigger than everyone. He's got just as good, if not better, symmetry than everyone, okay? And the one factor that we don't know is, does he have the conditioning to win the Olympia? So he's got 2 of 3 things that you need to win the Olympia. Size and symmetry. That's the hardest 2 to get. Conditioning is a matter of, can you put your mind to it, suffer enough under the right advice, and get in the best shape of your life. If he can do that, he could win the Olympia this year. He could certainly win the Olympia. We've been saying it for the last 2 years. We haven't seen him bring the conditioning level to the stage. He's a pretty good poser. For a guy who hasn't been competing that long, his presentation is good. If I was a betting man, which I'm not, and I say this all the time, under the eye of Chris Aceto, assuming he's listening to what Chris is saying, Ramy could come in, not only place top 3, he could win the Olympia this year. Will it happen? Who the hell knows? It's impossible to say. But Ramy has the tool set, and the tool set is something that most people don't have. Levrone has the tool set, but Levrone has age against him. Ramy is only 30 years old, so he's got that going for him. The only thing Ramy doesn't have is, will he bring the conditioning?
John Romano, let's go to you. Big Ramy, can he clinch a top 3 spot in this year's Olympia?
Absolutely. Big Ramy could win the Olympia every year for the next 10 years if he wants to. But, that's the big question, if he wants to. So you've got to be able to, go that extra 57 miles in order to, come in and dethrone the champ and, do what you got to do. Ramy definitely has all the pieces. He absolutely definitely has the physique. He's got the size. Is Aceto going to get him shredded? Probably. I think we're going to see the best Ramy we've ever seen. So, I think that top 3 spot is going to be extremely exciting and hotly contested between, I think, Ramy, Levrone, Heath, and Sean Roden and the other guys that are going to try to get in there and knock things around. But I think the hype about Levrone, his stage presence, his psych out ability, Rami's gigantic size, if he can get shredded, I think if Rami can get shredded, he's going to win forever. That's his only thing that he's got going against him, is he doesn't get that shark skin that Dorian used to get. If he could get that, forget it. You're looking at Mr. Olympia into the future as long as he wants.
Jerry, what do you think as far as Big Rami potentially clinching a top 3 finish at this year's Olympia?
Well, top 3, yes. Winning, no. I don't see Rami winning. I mean, he was actually harder as an amateur than he has been as a pro, muscularity-wise. And he still never had that, like, if, by himself, yeah, great. But if you stick him next to Phil has this weird 3D stuff that the judges obviously like, because Dexter Jackson has kind of a similar look. Sean Roden is now starting to get a similar look. Rami has, of course, a freaky frame. And, he's not a big bone structure guy. I've stood next to him. His wrists are tiny. He's not like a huge bone structure. He just carries a shit ton of muscle on his frame. And it's very symmetrical, small waist. Yes, he's working with Aceto now, who's obviously going to bring him in shredded. And I remember Aceto saying at one of the shows, he's like, even if I really fuck up and bring him in at 270, he's still going to be bigger than everybody else there and shredded. But when you stand him next to Phil under those lights and you start to hit those back shots and stuff, and those little weird details that Phil has, Levrone has, Dexter has, and that seems to be the trend that they've been going with. Every once in a while you see, obviously, Dennis Wolf in the mix, who doesn't have that same type of look, but they seem to be going with the more aesthetic round, full look, which Rami may be round and full and hard, but at that 3-dimensional look, it's not the same as Phil and those guys.
Question, and this one, Dave wants, we were talking about this earlier, and obviously now with the 212 division still relatively in its infancy. The name Lee Priest came up. Now, Lee Priest, known amongst most bodybuilding fans around social media for his videos, for his really strong takes. Well, here's the question. Would Lee Priest, or is Lee Priest, the best 212 bodybuilder to never partake in the 212 division? Jerry, what do you think?
Yes, hands down, absolutely. There's no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I mean, Lee had every body part there. There were some times that he was harder than other times, but Lee, at his super shredded most that he's ever been, with the size that he had, look at Flex Lewis. He has that type of full, thick physique. Lee had some better body parts, but if anybody was going to give Flex Lewis a run for his money that's never competed, it would be Lee Priest.
John? John, do we have him?
Yeah. Lee Priest, are you kidding me right now? Did you see the pictures of him when he won the Universe last year? That's the best Lee Priest has ever been. Nobody in 212 could beat him. Absolutely no one. He is Flex Lewis a run for his money. Flex Lewis will be running down the block. He doesn't stand a chance. He's going to chase him right out of the arena. Lee Priest is unbeatable at that weight class.
Final word, Dave Palumbo, on Lee Priest as the best ever 212.
Well, Chris Aceto was supposed to be on the show, but he's at a kid's baseball game or whatever, football game, and we had to hold the show a little early because Johnny Styles is going to the moon. But what I will say is, Chris and I discussed this, and Chris brought up a good person. I think he might be right. The question is, would Sean Ray lose to Lee Priest? And I think that Sean Ray might be the best 212 guy never to do the 212 Olympia. I know Sean would beat. I think he would beat Flex Lewis hands down. One-on-one against Lee Priest, I think Sean Ray is more polished. Now, as far as personalities go, Lee Priest definitely has a better personality than Sean Ray, but I don't know if I think Sean Ray might be the best 212 guy never to do the 212 Olympia.
We're going to do this again next week. Again, we had to do a bit of an abbreviated version of Iron Debate this time. When we come back next week, more Olympia-related topics, a lot more content, a lot more shows next week here on rxmuscle.com. For Dave Palumbo, Jerry Ward, John Romano, and Johnny Styles, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next week.